The moment Derek Miller yanked open my dresser drawer, a bolt of fury shot through me so fast it made my hands clench under the blanket. Nearly 3 in the morning, in my own damn home in Portland. A home I worked 40 years to pay off. And here he was, my daughter's husband, skulking like some back alley thief under my roof. I lay still, eyes half-lidded, forcing my breath into the slow rhythm of a man asleep. But inside, my chest burned with the kind of anger that makes your pulse feel like gunshots. The floorboard outside my room let out a faint groan. A shadow sliced across the strip of light from the hallway. Derek slid inside, moving like a snake that had done this before. He didn't even glance at me, too sure of himself, too certain I was the gullible, half-senile old man who'd been stupid enough to give him a place to stay. He went straight to the second drawer from the top, the one he thought held the little brass key to my safe. 3 weeks of snooping through my routines, 3 weeks of playing helpful son-in-law, had brought him right here. I watched his fingers dig deeper, rifling through the contents, and then there it was. That moment, his entire body went rigid. His face drained to the color of raw dough before flushing an ugly, blotchy yellow. Whatever he found in there wasn't what he expected. Not even close. And that's when it hit me. Hard. First, my trap had sprung perfectly. Second, this bastard had no clue his night was about to turn into hell. I kept my mouth shut, letting the silence tighten around us like a noose. He thought he was the predator, and I was the prey. But tonight, Derek wasn't walking away with my property. He was walking straight into the kind of payback you don't recover from. Some old men don't just defend themselves, they make damn sure the people who cross them regret it for the rest of their lives. If this story touched your heart, press 1" the comments. If you think it could have been handled differently, press 2. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? My name's Rick Lawson. I'm 66 years old, a retired insurance investigator, and for over 3 decades I've lived in the same 2-story house in a quiet Portland suburb. Tree-lined streets, kids riding bikes, neighbors who wave from a distance and keep to themselves. The kind of neighborhood where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen, where you can leave your guard down. I never leave mine down. Not once. 8 years ago, I buried my wife. Since then, I've lived alone, running my life like clockwork. Coffee at 6:30 a.m., a walk around the block, a little yard work or home repair. Everything in its place. Doors locked, paperwork filed, valuables secured. My safe is bolted to the closet floor, and for 15 years I kept the key taped under the lip of my second dresser drawer, past tense kept. 3 weeks ago, my phone rang early on a Tuesday. Emily's name lit up my screen, and I smiled until I heard her voice, tight, uneasy. Dad, I hate to ask, but could Derek and I stay with you for a while? Just until we get back on our feet? She explained that Derek had lost his job, the mortgage was 3 months overdue, and the bank was circling like a vulture. It would be temporary, she promised. I said yes without hesitation. She's my only child. When they pulled into my driveway that Friday in a U-Haul, I thought I was just helping family survive a rough season. Emily was herself warm, thoughtful, quick to thank me, quick to help. Derek was something else entirely. He walked into my home like a man scanning a showroom for items to price out. Firm handshake, polite smile, but his eyes were greedy and calculating, sweeping across my living room, up the stairs, into the shadows of my hallway. "Nice place, Rick," he said. "Must be worth a fortune in this market." At first I brushed it off, but within days the question started. "What kind of lock do you use on your safe? Anyone else have a key to your house? Do you keep much cash on hand just in case the banks go down?" His voice stayed light, but his eyes, they stayed on me like a hawk on a field mouse. The final straw came at dinner. Right in front of Emily, Derek brought up the safe again, pretending it was casual conversation about home security. But I saw at the slight dilation of his pupils, the spark of decision in his stare. I'd seen it in countless suspects before, the look of a man who's already decided to steal, now just plotting the how. That night, after Emily was asleep, I walked past my bedroom and noticed the door cracked open. I always shut it before heading downstairs. Inside, my closet door was ajar. My dresser drawers sat uneven. Me papers. Disturb. And when I reached under the second drawer, my brass key 15 years in that same hiding spot was gone. I didn't panic. I didn't confront him, because Derek doesn't know who he's dealing with. If he thinks he can rob me under my own roof without me seeing it coming, he's about to find out what happens when a man like me decides to fight back. In my house, I decide how the story ends, and sometimes the ending isn't pretty. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, because I was furious. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was betrayal, and I could feel it in every muscle of my body. 30 years as an insurance investigator had taught me a simple rule. When you smell a rat, you don't lunge, you watch. You build the case. You make sure when you strike, it's with enough force that they never get up again. The next morning, Derek was all smiles over breakfast, asking if I'd slept well, offering to pick up groceries, saying he'd mow the lawn. On the surface, it was politeness, but underneath, it was reconnaissance. He was checking my temperature, seeing if the old man had noticed his little exploration upstairs. I gave him nothing. That evening, Emily cooked chicken and rice, the same meal she used to make when she wanted to cheer me up after a bad day. We sat under the soft glow of the chandelier. Derek steered the conversation toward local crime, just casual talk, right? Then came the line that made my teeth grind. You know, Rick, with the way Portland's going, a man your age ought to make sure his valuables are locked up tight. The smirk was small, but it was there. He thought I didn't notice. I nodded slowly, the way you nod when you're filing away evidence for later. By 9 o'clock, Emily had gone upstairs, yawning from the long day. Derek and I sat in the living room, a television show flickering on mute between us. He kept glancing at the clock, waiting. At 11:47 p.m., I heard the creak of floorboards below my bedroom. Too heavy to be Emily, too deliberate to be innocent. Then a whisper, sharp enough to freeze the blood in my veins. Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. I moved silently to the heating vent in my floor, the same one that carried conversations from the living room with perfect clarity, if you knew where to kneel. The old man's definitely loaded, Derek's voice carried up, dripping with greed. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the works. We're talking serious money here. My hand curled into a fist. He listened, then spoke again. Tomorrow night, Emily's at her book club from 7 to 9. Gives us the perfect window. I clenched my jaw so tight it hurt. I already have the safe key. Grabbed it earlier this week. Everything's in there. Cash, jewelry, documents. We'll clear it out before he even knows. There was a pause, then his voice dropped, darker. I can't wait any longer. My gambling debts aren't going away, and these guys, they're not the type you keep waiting. Gambling debts, it figured. Then came the laugh, low, smug, full of contempt. Best part is he'll never suspect family. Even if he does, Emily will just tell him he's losing his memory. You know how old people are. That was the moment my outrage solidified into something colder resolve. He talked about, by Thursday we're clear, about a fake job offer in another state, about whisking Emily away before she could see the wreckage he'd leave behind. When the call ended, I heard his footsteps on the stairs. I slipped back into bed, eyes barely open, breath slow and even. His shadow crossed the hallway. The guest room door closed. Lying there, every word replayed in my head. Derek wasn't desperate, he was organized. He had help. And he was about to drag my daughter into something that could ruin her life. I could have woken Emily, told her everything, played her the recording on my phone. But love makes people blind, and right now, she wouldn't see him for what he was. If I was going to save her and destroy him, I had to make the trap airtight. No denials. No escape. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, my outrage sharpening into strategy. By the time the first pale light bled through the blinds, I knew exactly how to end this. The morning after Derek's midnight phone call, I wore my calm like armor. Every word, every gesture, rehearsed. Over coffee, I asked Emily about her book club meeting, just casually enough to keep suspicion off me. Derek's eyes flickered the moment she confirmed the time. He was already running the plan in his head, slotting my absence neatly into his theft schedule. I'll probably turn in early tonight, I added, slicing my toast with deliberate slowness. Didn't sleep great last night. Might even take one of those sleeping pills. I caught at the micro shift in his posture. His shoulders eased, his expression softened. He thought I'd be out cold when he made his move. Good. Let him believe it. I left the house mid-morning, my old leather jacket zipped against the Portland chill, and a list in my pocket that looked boring enough to pass for routine. Asterisk hardware store. electronics store, asterisk, grocery store. The first stop was Home Depot. I walked in for home improvement supplies and walked out with the perfect weapon, an oversized, spring-loaded confetti cannon, the kind meant for weddings and parades. Alongside it, a bag of ultra-fine silver and gold glitter. Not the chunky kind you can brush off, but the microscopic, hair-clinging, fabric-ruining variety that marks you like a scarlet letter for days. Best Buy was next. A kid named Tyler helped me choose a wireless mini camera with night vision and motion detection. Break-ins in your area? He asked, half distracted. Something like that, I said, and left it at that. By the time I got home, the place was empty. Emily at work, Derek out running errands, which probably meant figuring out how to cash out his theft. Perfect. I carried my haul upstairs and got to work. The confetti cannon came apart easily. I ditched the paper streamers and packed it with the glitter, working the trigger until I found the sweet spot, not so sensitive it would go off if I brushed against it, but light enough to guarantee a thief's hand wouldn't leave unmarked. Then I set the bait. I slid the device into the second dresser drawer, the exact spot Derek had already cased, then placed an old brass luggage key at the very back. From a glance, it could have been the safe key. Anyone reaching for it would have to press directly on the trigger plate. The camera came next. I tested angles from the bookshelf, the windowsill, even the top of my closet. The winner was my nightstand, hidden between two hardcover books, the lens barely visible but aimed perfectly to capture the dresser and most of the room. Through my phone, I tested the feed. Crystal clear night vision. The motion detector tripped instantly when I waved my hand. Perfect. I pictured it in my mind. Emily leaves for book club. Derek waits, pretending to watch television until he's sure she's gone. He tiptoes upstairs, smug in the belief that I'm knocked out cold. He opens the drawer, spots the key, and reaches. Boom silver and gold glitter detonates in his face, coating his hair, his clothes, even the floor, while the camera records every humiliating second. There wouldn't be any arguing with what Emily would see when she came home. No smooth talk, no, "You're just imagining things, Rick." Just cold, sparkling evidence. By the time they returned that afternoon, the trap was armed and ready. I sat in the living room, newspaper in hand, legs crossed like it was any other day. Derek didn't say much. He didn't have to. The way his eyes darted toward the stairs told me everything. He thought he was closing in on me. In reality, the noose was already around his neck. Dinner that night looked calm, but under the surface it was all tension and calculation. Emily chatted about a new exhibit at the library, her fork clinking against her plate. Derek barely listened. His phone buzzed twice during the meal, and each time his eyes flicked to the screen, his knee bouncing under the table like he couldn't wait to get moving. I played my role to perfection, just an old man fading into his evening. By 8 o'clock, I yawned into my coffee and stretched. "Think I'll call it an early night," I said, pushing back from the table. "Didn't sleep great last night. Might take something to help me knock out." "That's a good idea, Dad," Emily said, concern in her voice. "You've been looking tired lately." Across the table, Derek's lips twitched just enough to register. The kind of smile you see on someone who thinks they're already holding the winning hand. I carried my dishes to the sink, rinsed them, left them in the rack. Derek followed with his own plate, leaning on the counter like we were having some casual after-dinner chat. "I might stay up for a bit," he said. "Watch some television. Don't worry about me." I nodded, deadpan. Remote's on the coffee table. Upstairs, I moved like clockwork, brushed my teeth, changed into sweats, each step as practiced as it was deliberate. The camera feed on my phone showed the dresser in perfect view, the soft spill of hallway light illuminating the drawer where the glitter trap waited. The decoy key lay at the back, catching just enough lamplight to whisper, "Come take me." I left my bedroom door open 2 inches, exactly the way I'd found it the night I knew for sure Derek had been inside. Then I got into bed fully dressed, phone in hand, breathing slow and even. From downstairs, the canned laughter of a sitcom bled faintly into the quiet. Later, I heard Emily heading to bed, her door closing with a soft click. Then the house went still. But Derek didn't move. He was waiting me out. The minutes crawled. My eyes stayed on the phone screen, watching the empty frame of my bedroom. My pulse was steady, but under it was a simmering heat, the knowledge that the man who'd smiled at my daughter tonight was about to get marked like the thief he was. At 2:40 a.m., the first sound came, a faint stair creak. Derek was careful, skipping the boards that groaned, pausing between steps like a man who'd practiced. He stopped outside my door, listening. My chest rose and fell with the rhythm of a man lost in medicated sleep. The door eased open. On my phone screen, his shadow stretched long across the carpet. He slipped inside, dressed head to toe in dark clothes, moving with the unearned confidence of someone who thought they couldn't fail. Each step closed the gap between him and the dresser. The rasp of the drawer sliding open sounded louder to me than the television laugh track had hours earlier. I could picture his greedy fingers pushing past the papers, reaching for the glint of brass at the back. Just a little farther, Derek. One more inch, one more breath, and the trap would spring, turning his perfect crime into the dumbest mistake of his life. Boom! The blast was sharper than a gunshot in the still of the night, followed by a glittering detonation that lit the air with silver and gold. The ultrafine particles burst outward in a shimmering halo, instantly embedding themselves in skin, hair, clothing, an unshakable brand of guilt. Derek recoiled as if he'd touched a live wire. "What the?" His voice cracked, high and ragged. He pawed frantically at his shirt, but every swipe only ground the glitter deeper, painting his chest, arms, and hands in sparkling evidence. It was in his beard, his hairline, even his eyelashes, mocking him with every glint. I sat up with the slow, foggy confusion of a man dragged from medicated sleep. What on earth? My voice carried just the right mix of disbelief and accusation. The camera on my nightstand drank in every detail: his gaping expression, the half-open drawer, the dummy key pinched between his glitter-coated fingers. I heard a noise," he stammered, voice cracking again. "Thought someone might be breaking in." "At 2:40 in the morning?" I asked, tilting my head. "In my bedroom?" Footsteps pounded in the hallway. Emily appeared in the doorway, robe hastily knotted, hair mussed from sleep. She froze, her eyes widening at the sight of Derek. "Why do you look like a Christmas ornament exploded on you?" Derek opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. It's some kind of trap." I opened the drawer, and Emily's gaze flicked to the dresser, then back to him. Her voice was sharp now. "Why were you in my dad's dresser?" "I was just looking for—" "My medications are in the bathroom cabinet," I said evenly, cutting through his fumbling. "They always have been." The air in the room shifted. The lie he'd been building crumbled before it even took shape. Derek's shoulders slumped, glitter dripping from his fingertips onto the carpet like a steady clock, marking his guilt. Emily's voice hardened into something cold and unfamiliar. "You left our bed at nearly 3 in the morning to go through my father's personal things?" "That's not what happened." Derek's tone spiked with desperation, his words tumbling over each other. "I thought I heard something. I was checking." "Checking for what?" she snapped. "And why is there a key in your hand?" The silence that followed was a chokehold. Derek's eyes darted from me to Emily, searching for a lifeline that didn't exist. Every sparkle on his skin was another nail in his coffin. "I can explain," he said finally, voice low. Emily's arms folded tight across her chest. "Then explain. Right now." He hesitated too long. I could see it in his face. The gears grinding, the story dying before it reached his lips. And in that hesitation, I knew the performance was over. It was time to stop playing the sleepy old man and bring out the evidence that would bury him. Emily's eyes stayed fixed on Derek, cold and unblinking. "You said you could explain, so explain." "I told you." "Don't—" My voice cut in, low but sharp enough to slice through the air. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. "There's something you need to hear first." Derek's head snapped toward me. "Rick, don't—" "Don't what?" Emily's tone was ice. I tapped the screen, and the room filled with Derek's own voice, clear, cold, and damning. "Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's definitely loaded. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the works. We're talking serious money here." Emily's face went pale. The recording rolled on. "Tomorrow night. Emily's at her book club from 7 to 9. Gives us the perfect window. I already have the safe key. Everything important's in there. Cash, jewelry, documents." "Stop it!" Derek lunged toward me, panic flooding his face, but Emily stepped in front of him like a steel door slamming shut. "Shut up and let me listen," she said, her voice shaking not from fear but from fury. The rest played out. Every word another nail in his coffin. The gambling debts, the plan to get clear by Thursday, the smug line about using Emily's trust to cover his tracks. Even if he figures out something's missing, Emily will convince him he just misplaced it. You know how old people get about their memory. Emily's hand covered her mouth, but her voice came out like steel. You were going to rob my father and use me as your alibi. It's not. It's exactly what it sounds like, she snapped. Derek froze, glitter still clinging to his skin like 1,000 tiny spotlights on his guilt. How much? She demanded. What? How much do you owe? His eyes shifted hesitation, calculation, then a muttered, 47,000. Emily's shoulders sagged as if she'd been struck. You've been lying to me for months. About your job, our finances, everything. Oh, I was trying to protect us. By robbing my father, her voice cracked under the weight of rage. By calling him a lonely old fool. By making me think he was losing his mind. Derek stepped forward, hands out like he could still bargain. We can work this out, Em. We're married. Number. She stepped back. We're done. Get out. His face twisted. Half of everything we own is mine. Emily gave a short, bitter laugh. You mean half our debt? Enjoy it. The charm dropped from his face like a mask. He turned on me, eyes venomous. This is your fault. You turned her against me. No, Emily shot back. You did that yourself when you planned a felony against my family. The three of us stood in silence, the air heavy with finality. Then Emily's hand lifted, pointing to the door. Pack your things, now. He hesitated, fight flickering, then dying and shoved past her, leaving a trail of glitter like breadcrumbs to his disgrace. From the guest room came the sound of drawers slamming, zippers tearing shut. A minute later he reappeared in the doorway with 2 duffels, glitter still catching in his hair and beard. Emily didn't look at him. Leave your key on the counter. Don't contact me. My lawyer will contact yours. He stared at her like he was waiting for a last-second reprieve. She gave him nothing. The front door slammed, and the house went still. Emily stood there, chest rising and falling, before she finally turned to me. I'm so sorry, Dad. I brought him into your home. I put you in danger. I shook my head. You couldn't have known. But once I did, I wasn't about to let him get away with it. She let out a tearful, disbelieving laugh. The glitter bomb. Genius. That was just for fun, I said, a small smile tugging at my mouth. The camera and the recording, that's what will keep him from ever coming back. 3 months later, the house finally breathed again. The air felt lighter. The silence wasn't the tense, watching kind anymore. It was the easy quiet you share with someone you trust. Emily had filed for divorce within a week of that night. Derek hadn't contested. It's hard to bluff when you're drowning in debt and staring at the possibility of criminal charges. She stayed here while she rebuilt, working full-time at the library. Every morning, I'd watch her head out the door with her travel mug in one hand, a stack of books in the other, her shoulders a little straighter each day. One morning over coffee, she smirked at me. Any regrets about the glitter bomb? I chuckled. Only that I didn't get a slow-motion replay of it going off. Word had made its way through the neighborhood, of course. Mrs. Carter from 2 doors down stopped me one afternoon, asking if I could help her set up a Rick Lawson special in her sewing room after a few things mysteriously disappeared. I told her it wasn't patented yet. Truth is, the glitter was never about humiliation. It was about undeniable proof. People can talk their way out of accusations. But standing in someone's bedroom at 3 a.m, covered in sparkling evidence? That's not a story you can sell. Justice doesn't always come with a badge or a gavel. Sometimes it's about trusting your instincts, building the right trap, and letting someone's own greed deliver the verdict. That evening, Emily came home early. She dropped her bag, looked around the kitchen, and smiled at me. Thanks, Dad, for protecting me, for handling it the way you did. Always, kiddo, I said. Outside, spring was settling over Portland. The street was quiet. The house felt safe. And if life ever decided to send another Derek Miller my way, well, let's just say I still had a jar of glitter, and this time I'd buy 2 cannons.